Alright guys, so yesterday in my video I showed you the threats that were coming from the Israeli government against the aid ship convoy that is currently trying to make its way to break the siege on Gaza as Israel is continuing with their mass starvation campaign. And as of early this morning or earlier today, it looks like these attacks have materialized. So here from Dropsite News on an update from last night. They say it's currently just after 3 a.m. and the ships of the Samud Flotilla have concentrated together under a clear sky. Numerous drones are continuously passing overhead as the captains coordinate the positions of the boats and crews to remain on high alert after at least 12 explosions were seen across 9 boats. They say earlier reports said that a person on the Yalara ship had been injured in a chemical attack. This person was sprayed with chemicals from an attack by a drone, but they were not seriously injured. And here we have a video from the ship, the Tygate, of a flashbang that hits the ship and ended up destroying the main sail. So let's go ahead and watch this video here. So there is no other way to put it to describe what we're witnessing here. This is terrorism, okay? Here you have a country in Israel that is committing a full-blown genocide in Gaza, that is actively mass starving the population of Gaza, that is blocking any adequate amount of aid from getting into the population there. And they are actively attacking ships filled with civilians in international waters, by the way, for daring to try to deliver aid to the people that Israel is starving. That's what we're witnessing here. Now, more testimony here from people who were on some of these flotillas. So here we have one saying that they've been attacked 7 times in a short time span. Boats were hit with sound bombs, explosive flares, and sprayed with suspected chemicals. Their radios were jammed. Calls for help were blocked. And here from Francesca Albanese, she says immediate international attention and protection is required. Hands off the flotilla. More on that here in a second, because there are several countries who actually are stepping in to provide at least some degree of support to this flotilla convoy. Now, one more thing here from Kieran Andrew, who is on one of these ships. He says, we are still sailing. This is as of 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time of today. He says, we're still sailing. 37 boats are currently heading to Gaza, soon to be joined by 6 more from Greece. Organizers currently believe only 1 boat was too badly damaged by the explosions last night to continue. He says, night will come in the next few hours, and with it, the possibility of renewed attacks. We know that you are watching. Thank you. He says, Gaza, we know that this is a grain of sand compared to the suffering that you experience every minute of every day. We are coming. So clearly, it looks like the terrorism that they were subjected to last night by the Israeli military was not successful in the sense of deterring the mission that they're actually trying to accomplish here. And again, as he warns here, a couple hours, I mean, probably right as I'm releasing this video here, they are probably going to be facing more and possibly even more intense attacks tonight. So keep your eyes on this, because wouldn't put it past Israel in the slightest to straight up, blow up and attack one of these boats and kill everybody on board. So this is incredibly important that we all stay focused on this. Now, he also pointed out here that on Monday, the IDF gunned down and killed 5 starving people who were trying to collect aid and injured 24 others. In total, the IDF has now killed nearly 3,000 people at food distribution points and injured an astounding 20,000. And he's responding here to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, who once again, sort of in a veiled threat, put out this tweet saying the Hamas flotilla, right? And the reason they're calling it the Hamas flotilla is to give some sort of a pretext or a justification to attack them, to kill them. And they say that they refuse Israel's proposal to unload aid peacefully at the nearby Ashkelon marina. Instead, it chooses the illegal path, sailing into a combat zone and breaching the lawful naval blockade. This proves their true aim, serving Hamas rather than delivering aid. Now, so many things that are utterly insane about this. Number one, dropping the aid off at the port or the place of Ashkelon does nothing to actually break the blockade, which is the mission of this entire journey that they're on right now. And it also doesn't do anything in terms of delivering aid, even if it may be a small amount from these ships, to the people of Gaza, because Israel controls everything that comes across the border of Gaza, and they're allowing nowhere even remotely close to what's actually needed to serve the population there. So it's deranged in that sense. It's also deranged, again, in the sense that they're calling them the Hamas flotilla, as if they're delivering weapons. No, they're delivering humanitarian supplies that you are preventing from getting into Gaza. It's also insane that they call this a lawful naval blockade, When you are in the midst of committing a genocide and you have a full naval blockade imposed to prevent anybody from bringing humanitarian aid to the population that you are exterminating, that's not a lawful naval blockade. It doesn't make it lawful just because you say it's so, right? That's not how this works. Everything that Israel is doing in Gaza right now is against international law. And if anything, there is protection under international law for delivering aid to a starving Palestinian population like this, or to any population that is in these kinds of circumstances. So if anything, it's the Gaza aid flotillas that have the international legal right to do what they're doing right now, not Israel, obviously. Not that even really needs to be explained. Now, as a reminder, I showed you this statement yesterday that was also put out by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, where, again, they're just threatening to essentially attack and to potentially kill the people in these flotillas. They say, "We were sorry to hear the response from the Hamas flotilla representative that the flotilla insists on pursuing a violent course of action and refuses our proposal, again, to transfer the aid to Ashkelon Marina. This response once again highlights the insincerity of the flotilla members and their mission to serve Hamas rather than the people of Gaza," as if the Israeli military, the Israeli government, is serving the people of Gaza. I mean, total and utter insanity, right? They say if the flotilla continues to reject Israel's peaceful proposal, Israel will take the necessary measures to prevent its entry into the combat zone and to stop any violation of, again, the lawful naval blockade. Absolutely untrue. Right. And again, you see the threats here, right? When they use language like the Hamas flotilla, when they use language like this is a violent course of action, as you're talking about peace advocates who are trying to go and deliver aid to a population that you are starving, they're calling that a violent course of action. They are trying to set up the pretext to bomb these aid convoys. Now, you can see them on a map here. Somebody in my previous video linked this down below. It's super helpful. You can see sort of the trajectory of where many of these ships began this journey from Barcelona in Spain, some making stopovers in Tunisia, where there was another attack that I also covered on this channel about a week or two ago, where Israel dropped what appeared to be an incendiary device on several of the ships in Tunisia. Just add it to another country that Israel has violated the sovereignty of and bombed and attacked. Tunisia on that list as well, alongside Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen as well. We can keep tallying up those countries, and many of them then moved on to Sicily over here, and then are making their trajectory down here to Crete in Greece, and then from there we'll travel on hopefully to Gaza. So again, this is where Israel is attacking these ships. Right, it's in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, closer to Greece or even closer to Egypt or Libya or Turkey than it even is to Israel at this point. So they're bombing ships of civilians with humanitarian aid in international waters. That's what they're doing. Now, as this is happening, we have several countries who have stepped in to provide at least some degree of material support to the flotillas. So here we have from The Guardian, Italian Prime Minister condemns drone attacks on Gaza aid flotilla boats. So what are they talking about? They say the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has condemned an overnight drone attack on a flotilla trying to deliver aid to Gaza, but also criticized the mission as, quote, dangerous and irresponsible, and claimed that it was aimed at creating problems for her government. Interesting, right? So she condemns the attack on the flotillas, but then also claims the mission itself as dangerous and irresponsible, and sort of a personal jab at her for some reason. Now, the reason that this is important, to highlight is because Giorgia Meloni is not like some radical lefty pro-Palestine, anti-Israel kind of person. She is extremely far right and extremely pro-Israel. So how do we get to the point where now this is coming after Italy is saying it's sending a Navy ship to assist the convoy of about 50 vessels, which have many pro-Palestine activists, including a Swedish campaigner, Greta Thunberg, after it was attacked in international waters off Greece? How do we get to this point? Well, it's because of things like this. Right? In Italy, there have been sustained protests, and even as early as this week, there was a strike that was put in place. Tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people participated in this, in trying to block ports, in trying to shut down roads, in trying to shut down schools and stations, etc. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have kept up a sustained pressure campaign on the Italian government to the point where they can't ignore the issue. And I think that this is probably the only reason why this ends up happening, right? So important to keep in mind that there are, some small victories along the way in attempting to get Western governments to, be on the right side of history when it comes to this. Now, a couple more things on this. They say, speaking to journalists in New York, where she was attending the UN General Assembly, Maloney said that the multi-purpose frigate, the Fasan, was not expected to use military force. So, important point there. They're not saying that they're going to bomb, Israeli ships or planes or drones or anything like that. They're there essentially for support in the case of Israel bombing one of these ships, right? They're there essentially to provide support in any sort of rescue operation. Okay, now, final things here. They say the Italian defense minister said in an earlier statement that the convoy had been targeted by, quote, currently unidentified perpetrators. I wonder who it could have been, right? And expressed the strongest condemnation of the attack. He said that the Navy ship, again, which had previously been sailing north of Crete, was already en route toward the flotilla for possible rescue operations. Now, we also have a second country who is stepping in alongside Italy. So here we have from David Adler. He says, breaking, Spain announced today that it will send an official military ship to protect the global Samud flotilla. And also, just for context, the word Samud in Arabic, translated to English, roughly means, resilience or steadfastness. Just a little bit of context there for why they called it the global Samud flotilla. And they say this is carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza following attacks on the civilian vessels earlier this morning. So again, you also have Spain sending a military vessel potentially to aid in any sort of rescue operation, given Israel's continued threats against these convoys. Now, final thing here that I'll bring you. Again, very important that we keep an eye on what's going to happen tonight. It seems like Israel, if anything, is going to escalate these attacks. I mean, if this is what they were willing to do as they're all the way over here near the coast of Greece, then imagine once they continue this journey closer and closer to Israel, how much further this could go up the escalation chain. So keep your eyes on the flotillas tonight and over the next couple of days. But I wanted to finish off with just an update in terms of putting into context why this kind of thing needs to happen and why this is necessary in the first place. So here from Dropsite News, their latest update from 2 days ago on the genocide in Gaza. They say at least 29 Palestinians were killed in Israeli attacks across Gaza on that day, including 25 in Gaza City, where obviously Israel is continuing with their ramped up ground operation to essentially expel the hundreds of thousands of people that remain in North Gaza down to the south to then concentrate them into camps and then eventually to fully ethnically cleanse the entire population from Gaza. But there were 25 who were killed just in Gaza City on that day. They say at least 61 Palestinians were killed and 220 were injured in the past 24 hours, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. 23 Palestinians were injured while seeking aid, and the total recorded death toll since October 7th of 2023 is now over 65,334 killed, with close to 200,000 injured. And obviously, I think as most of us know by this point, this is in all likelihood a drastic undercount. The death toll at this point could be into the hundreds of thousands. The injuries could be well above that even. So, again, important to contextualize that the official numbers are the numbers that they have an official count of, right? Obviously, the Gaza Ministry of Health, the civilian governance in Gaza, the hospital and healthcare system in Gaza has been completely obliterated. There are countless people who have not been recovered, who are stuck under the rubble, etc. So the number is in all likelihood much higher than that. A couple more things here. They say that the Al-Rantisi Children's Hospital and the Eye Hospital in Gaza City are now no longer operational as a direct result of Israel's military assault on the area. According to the Ministry of Health, they say the Eye Hospital was the only hospital specializing in eye treatment in the Gaza Strip, while Al-Rantisi was the last functioning pediatric hospital. Say the occupation is deliberately and systematically targeting the healthcare system in the Gaza Strip as part of its policy of genocide against the Strip, according to the ministry. They say the Israeli forces continued demolitions in Gaza City on Sunday using explosive robots to level entire blocks, while vehicles carried out sweeping operations. Warplanes struck the same residential block near Al-Quds Open University for a second day as artillery shelled neighborhoods in the southeast and northwest. They say reconnaissance and quadcopter drones flew at low altitude, with some firing directly at civilian homes. And Al Jazeera's Tariq Abu Azum, reporting directly from Deir al-Balah, said that Gaza City is facing its heaviest wave of Israeli strikes since October 7th, forcing tens of thousands onto the coastal road as the army pushes deeper into the city's core. As a resident said that Israeli quadcopters dropped grenades into courtyards of UN-run shelters. Let me read that last sentence again. residents said that Israeli quadcopters dropped grenades into courtyards of UN-run shelters. This is a full-blown rogue genocidal terror state that we are witnessing right now. Final thing here. They say that new ACLED data, the ACLED is a UN and Western backed and recognized conflict tracker. And their latest data shows that since Israel resumed its full-scale genocidal assault on March 18th of this year, roughly 94% of the more than 16,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza have been civilians, with about 15 civilians killed for every fighter. This is not normal. This is not what war looks like. This is what genocide looks like. Right. They also point out here that there are widespread Israeli demolitions, targeted strikes on government and internal security officials, and the use of U.S.-backed aid to drive chaos, while Hamas adapted through guerrilla tactics and decentralized governance, maintaining municipal services and continuing to recruit fighters despite nearly 2 years of war. So at this point, it's not as if, Hamas does not have some sort of a resistance capacity even 2 years into this. And obviously the context surrounding the possibility of a ceasefire deal are essentially still the same, that Israel refuses to negotiate in good faith. They refuse to even entertain the idea of having a long-term ceasefire deal. And it seems at this point, that that's entirely off the table, and Israel is going to continue to move forward with their genocidal assault. So there's your update for today. Obviously, again, vitally important that we keep our eyes on the flotilla. Would not put it past Israel to massacre the people who are on board. Again, as a reminder, this is an internationally, or a mission that is internationally protected by law, right? They have every right in the world to go and deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. It is a peaceful operation. There are activists from all over the world who are on these ships trying to go and deliver aid to the Palestinians that Israel is starving inside of Gaza. And Israel has absolutely no right to impose this kind of a naval blockade. And they certainly have no right to attack civilian ships in international waters. So again, there's your update for today. Keep the pressure up. You can clearly tell it with the actions of the Italian government, with the actions recently of Canada, Australia, of the UK, of France, that the pressure is building. And so they're definitely feeling something. So if we can keep up the pressure from a grassroots level, then eventually, hopefully, it will work its way to the top. And they in turn can, apply actual pressure on Israel to bring about an end to this genocide. And I'm not talking about, recognizing a hypothetical Palestinian state on paper. I'm talking about sanctions. I'm talking about an arms embargo. I'm talking about fully cutting off trade relations with Israel. These are the kinds of things that need to happen at the state level, at the international level, in order to bring this to an end.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying